Braden Shen. Sounds like there's a chance Braden Shen could be out there via trade. He's got 3 years left at $6.5 million. Darren Dreger on Insider Trading of TSN. That's a spicy meatball, my friend.
Oh, that is. I am pretty high on the Schenn boys. We talk on this show about trying to get guys that can play with that grit and these younger players that are coming up. And, most, scouts and GMs and whatnot say we can't find these guys. They don't exist anymore. It's just not in their DNA from this younger generation, and they don't value that kind of thing a lot of the times. And then you look at like a Braden Shen, who, when I was playing, seemed like one of those younger guys making his way through LA, who drafted him, high draft pick, and still played with that Sasky grit, and now he's a veteran and a cup winner and a captain of his team. And I guess he's kind of getting to the point where he's part of the old guard. But there's a guy who can, understand what a playoff grind feels like, understands the momentum of a game and what a team needs when they're flat. He's a guy that's selfless in the fact that he'll step up for his teammates, whether, it's a guy that's out of his weight class or a guy that's, he'll scrap guys that primarily do that type of thing. And he's like the captain, leader, goal scoring centerman of his team. And he'll show up and fight that guy. He'll bang and crash. And I really love that identity. I think the Leafs have been missing it in years past. I think they've done a lot to try to address it in recent years here. But a guy like him would be a phenomenal addition. Again, how do you fit his 5 point something
6.5, yeah.
cap? How 6.5? And what do you give up to even have St. Louis give you him? Like, he's an asset to them. They don't give him for nothing. They're not furious with him. He's not this disaster in St. Louis. They're just thinking of shaking it up as their season hasn't gone that well. But what do you give up for him? I don't know. I mean, if Treliving can pull off a move where you get a guy like Braden Shen and move guys off of our roster, guys that we've talked about who make too much money and don't really, produce a whole lot, and you can open up a hole in the cap to get a Braden Shen here, I mean, that would just be phenomenal. I think Tree would look like an absolute genius if he could move like a Domi in a camp or something like that, or a Robertson or so. Like, it's just not happening. But if people legitimately think this can work, it's going to be something like that. And you always got to put yourself in the shoes of, in this case, the St. Louis Blues, and say, well, what the hell is in it for them to make a deal like that? And then you just start running short of bodies and players to start to think that this could work. So I don't know. I'm very skeptical on it the more I think about it. But I'm not a cap genius guy. I'm not a big trade center guy. But I'm just trying to figure out, okay, well, why and how are these things going to work? And hopefully I'm pleasantly surprised. But
the good news is that this is two proactive general managers in Doug Armstrong and St. Louis, who's not afraid to think outside the box. And Brad Treliving's involved in every damn conversation. On top of that, there's the correlation. Braden's brother, of course, we know, took 2 stops in Toronto. If somebody would know well, it's obviously Luke, about what the market, what it means. He's got full no trade protection, I believe. And on top of that, he won a Stanley Cup with Craig Berube. He's the head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, there's a reason, I think, why he is linked already to the Toronto Maple Leafs. On paper, I agree with you. He makes just so much sense. You slot him behind Matthews and Tavares, and suddenly you're in business with a third line. I think it's going to be tough hurdle-wise. I think a lot of teams would want to be involved in a guy like Braden Shen, but I honestly feel like Toronto could have the upper hand. It's to your point, more about what can they give up? How can they get that salary in there is the question.
I know, no first round pick this year. It hurts, right? Other people have that sweetener, which is, first round pick. I'm not certain how deep the draft is this year, but depending on, who we're talking about, and the Leafs are obviously kind of top 5 in the league, somewhere around there. So that pick isn't going to be, a third overall, but those guys, getting those guys coming down the barrel is pretty good news for general managers, right? To have some prospects coming down your pipeline. I mean, you're thinking about your job, and you're thinking about long-term, and you're thinking about the long-term success of your franchise. To not have anyone coming down the barrel is kind of scary, because it's like, well, if we run out of X, or if we lose so-and-so to free agency, like, where are we going to be in the standings, and how is this market going to take that? And if there's no one coming in to, blossom and to be on an entry-level contract and to start helping the team out immediately, all of a sudden you're in cap trouble, you can't compete, and then the GM's job's on the line. So you think about that kind of thing. It's difficult to give away those first rounders, but we do have a 2026 first rounder. I don't know. I can't think of Tree Living making too big of a splash and filling the holes he needs to without getting rid of that pick. And I don't know where his mind's at as far as having no first round pick for two years is a tough prospect to look at. But yeah, that 3C, that's all it would take is one. Everyone knows what we need. We need a right-handed defenseman and we need a 3C. How we get those is a different story, but all of a sudden you look at our lineup and our bottom six and you get a Braden Shen in there, the 3C right under, Johnny T, and all of a sudden it's like, oh baby, we're rolling the lines now, and everyone kind of has their clear defined roles, and we know where to go to, and we have this situation, and we know what this guy's role is on this line, and it shapes it up a lot better. And we'll see if Tree can get something done like that. But it's just funny, there's just no secret what this team needs at this point. Everyone's talking about 3C and right-handed D.
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.